hear everybody tell me good afternoon. I am so honored to be with this group today as we officially cast Georgia's 16 Electoral College votes for President-elect Joe Biden and my soror, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Georgians have a legacy of showing up and making our voices heard, and we've proven to the nation that Georgia is ready for big change. This election was not about lifting one voice or one candidate, but about lifting the voices of those who have so often been left behind, who felt unheard and unseen in our political process. And together, voters across Georgia found their collective voice to permanently transform our state. This year, we broke records for voter turnout. Communities across our state stood up, and Georgians elected a Democratic president for the first time in 28 years. 28 years, y'all. Not only did we flip Georgia blue, and not only did we restore the soul of our nation, but we're sending the first Black woman to the White House. What a historic moment. We've come so far. But this moment for Georgia Democrats is about the hard work and the belief in the power of Georgia voters who made this day possible. This moment is for the voters who applied early for mail-in ballots and those who waited in line for hours to make sure that their voices were heard. This moment is also for the voters who weren't quite sure that their vote would matter and who may have felt powerless, but they showed up at the polls anyway. Today proves that Georgia voters are not powerless. Georgia voters are very powerful, and we're gonna prove it again soon. As we stand here together about to make history, we know that this result was not luck. It was thanks to the hard work of organizers, volunteers, and voters across this state. This win was built through years of grassroots organizing and meeting Georgians where they are, years of reminding Georgians of the power of their voice and their vote, and years of fighting to make sure that every vote is counted. Today shows that Georgians are ready to turn the page on ignorance and inaction. Georgians have known it for years, and now the nation knows that Georgia is a blue state. Despite the division that we've seen in recent weeks, today we will fulfill our constitutional duty, and I am so honored to be a part of this moment. I couldn't be more proud to cast my Electoral College vote on behalf of Georgia voters today. Now, as your chairwoman, Nikema Williams of the Democratic Party of Georgia, I officially call this meeting to order. We will now have the administration of oath by Superior Court Judge Kimberly Esmond Adams.
Good morning. Let me try that again. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to ask all of you, if you would, to please stand in your place. That is the electors, of course. And if each of you would please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your full name. Having been elected by the voters of the electors of the state of Georgia to the place and office of elector for President of the United States and Vice President of the United States at an election legally had and held on November 3rd, 2020, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful unto the state of Georgia, and that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Georgia, and will, to the best of my abilities, faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the aforesaid office according to law. Congratulations, you are now duly installed. Thank you.
We will now move forward with the election of the presiding officer and secretary for the meeting. Are there any nominations? Elector Kathy Willard has nominated Stacey Abrams to be presiding officer. A motion has been made and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye for Stacey Abrams to be the presiding officer of this meeting today. Any opposed? Thank you. Leader Abrams, you are the presiding officer of our meeting today.
Thank you, Congresswoman-elect Nikema Williams. And thank you to the body of electors for having me here today as your presiding officer. This has been a long time in coming, but we believe that we are in the right place at the right time. Our first order of business is to elect a secretary for the meeting. Do I have a motion? Representative Wendy Davis? Is there a second? Wendy Davis has properly nominated Sachin Varghese. Senator Steve Hinson has seconded that motion. Are there any objections? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Sachin Varghese is now elected as the secretary of this meeting. And if you will now join me in welcoming the Dean of the House and the person who was here in 1980 when we did this before, and in 1992 when we did it again. Dean of the House, Calvin Smyrie, will lead us in the invocation.
Thank you very much, Leader Abrams. It's great to see you, and it's great to be here, Chairman. Thank you. It's just a wonderful day, and I'm overjoyed and excited about this opportunity to have been a president electoral 9 times and to have voted 3 times for Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, and now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So it's a great day in Georgia. I can remember in 1980, the votes were around 800,000 voters, and then to 1.2, and now to 2.4 million. So we've come a long, long way in Georgia, and we've got a lot to be proud for. So this is a great day for Georgia. It's a great day for all of you all here who are here on this historic day, and I am glad to join you. And this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Shall we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your many blessings, and we ask that you bless this meeting and give us guidance and help today. Let your wisdom fall upon us as we gather for this electoral college. Heavenly Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered at the sound of my voice. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. We ask your prayer as we face circumstances beyond our control. We thank you for life, for a measure of health during this pandemic, for the need to fulfill our callings. We are thankful for one another for the ability to do useful work and for the honor to bear awesome responsibilities as electors. Thanks for the freedom to embrace you and for ever watching over us and forever keeping us safe. I pray for our leaders and those we elect on this day, President-elect Joe Biden, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. I pray for our agenda today set before us. Give us an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in our great state and nation. It is in your blessed name I pray. Amen.
I would now like to recognize the chairman of South Georgia, Bobby Fuse. He will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good afternoon, Democrats. Madam Presiding Officer, Madam Chairman, Democrats, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fuse. I now call upon our Secretary, Sachin Varghese, who will read the certificate of ascertainment and call the roll.
Certificate of Ascertainment. On November 3rd, 2020, the following 16 people were appointed electors of President and Vice President of the United States for the state of Georgia, each receiving 2,473,633 votes. Stacey Yvonne Abrams, Gloria S. Butler, Wendy Davis, Bobby L. Fuse Jr., Deborah Gonzalez, Steve Henson, Van R. Johnson, Pedro Pete Marine, Fanika Thomas Miller, Ben E. Myers, Rachel Pauley, Calvin Smyrie, Bob Trammell Jr., Sachin Varghese, Nikema Williams, and Kathy Woolard. In witness hereof, I have hereto set my hand and caused the great seal of the state of Georgia to be affixed at the Capitol in Atlanta, Georgia, this 7th day of December, 2020, Governor Brian Kemp. As I call your name, please state if you're present. Stacey Yvonne Abrams. Present. Gloria S. Butler. Present. Wendy Davis. Present. Bobby L. Fuse Jr. Present. Deborah Gonzalez. Present. Steve Henson. Present. Van R. Johnson. Pedro Pete Marine. Fanika Thomas Miller. Ben E. Myers Jr. Rachel Pauley. Calvin Smyrie. Bob Trammell Jr. I am here. Nikema Williams. And Kathy Woolard. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Presiding Officer. I am pleased to report that all 16 appointed electors are present. I do want to take one moment to thank our alternate electors who were here to serve in case they were needed. Elena Reeves, Bianca Keaton, and Jason Estevez. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Sachin. When I was coming in today, I was on a phone call with my mother, who grew up in Mississippi. She and my father raised us there, moved us here to Georgia in 1989 when they were both called into the United Methodist Ministry. We lived in Georgia from 89. They moved back to Mississippi in 93. I stayed and attended college at Spelman. I left for a brief sojourn to Texas and then to Connecticut. I got to Texas when they were electing George Bush, got to Connecticut when it went Republican. I got back in 99, and by 2002, the tides were changing. 2004. 2006. I joined the House in 06, and in 04, the House had gone Republican. This is a moment for me that I have dreamed about because I realized I couldn't move again. I was born in Wisconsin, grew up in Mississippi and in Georgia, lived in Texas, lived in Connecticut, but I planted my flag and my feet here in Georgia. And I look around this room and I see people who've not only planted their feet, but planted their dreams here in Georgia. Folks who have given of their time and their talent and their treasure to invest in the communities that they serve. You see, when I go to South Georgia, I know I can't travel there without calling Bobby Fuse first. And that if I'm anywhere near Middle Georgia, Fanica Miller's name has to come out of my mouth. I know that if you go to Savannah, you've got to talk to Van Johnson about what he's doing for his city. And I know where my parents live in Stone Mountain, they are well represented by Senator Steve Hinson. When Rome, Georgia needed a voice in their city council, they got Wendy Davis. And when the Senate needed a new leader, it got Gloria Butler. We know that Sachin Varghese was our attorney over in the House when we were fighting for good maps. And I know when we need a good man who understands labor and power, you look to Ben Myers. When I served in the House, I was privileged to help elect new people. And I saw Bob Trammell come up from Troup County. When I was working to elect other folks, the Young Dems were a powerhouse, and that brought me to Rachel Pauley. We needed a new voice in Athens to make certain that justice rings out, and we've got Deborah Gonzalez. And when I was at the City of Atlanta watching new things unfold, there was Kathy Woolard. And you cannot make a decision in the Georgia General Assembly without consulting the Dean of the House, Calvin Smyre. I name each of you because each of you have claimed this state as your own. But more importantly, you claim the people as your own. But moving forward from dream to reality requires a force of nature and a leadership that is unparalleled, and that is why I'm so proud of my friend Nikema Williams, who was a state senator, is a congresswoman-elect, and serves as the chair of our party. But when we think about building a state, we've got to think about more than just who we used to be. We've got to think of who we will become, and that has always been the charge given to me by Pedro Marin, who speaks up for those who don't always get seen in our conversations, but he ensures that they are heard in our decisions. We stand not for ourselves and not for our party, but for the people of Georgia. It is on their behalf that we took up this charge to be electors. It is on their behalf that we are ensuring that the nation is led by a good man who believes in the soul of our nation and in all of its people. It is on their behalf that we come together today to cast our votes for Joseph R. Biden and Kamala Devi Harris. It is for them, the people of Georgia, that I say today we are electors, but we are also servants. Servants of a better Georgia, servants of a better future, and servants of the United States of America. We will now cast our ballots for the President of the United States. The ballots for President will be distributed to each of the electors. Please complete your ballot once you receive it. Upon completion, your ballot will be collected and provided to our Secretary for review. Afterwards, I will confirm your vote with each of you via roll call. Ballots have been reviewed and transmitted. As I call your name, please state the name of the person for whom you cast your vote for president. I will start by stating that I cast my vote for President Joe Biden. Gloria Butler.
I cast my vote for President Joe Biden.
Wendy Davis.
I cast my vote for President Joe Biden.
Bobby Fuse. Deborah Gonzalez. Steve Hinson. Van Johnson. Pedro Marin. Fanika Miller. Ben Myers. Rachel Pauley. Calvin Smyrie. Bob Trammell. Sachin Varghese. Nikema Williams.
I cast my vote for President Joe Biden.
Kathy Woolard. I am pleased to announce that Joseph R. Biden has received 16 votes for President of the United States. We will now cast our ballots for Vice President of the United States. The ballots for Vice President will be distributed to each of the electors. Please complete your ballot once you receive it. Upon completion, your ballots will be collected and provided to our Secretary for review. Afterwards, I will confirm your vote with each of you via a roll call vote. As I call your name, please state the name of the person for whom you cast your vote for Vice President. I cast my vote for Vice President for Kamala Harris. Gloria Butler.
I cast my vote for the first black female, Kamala Harris, for Vice President.
Wendy Davis.
I cast my vote for Kamala Harris for Vice President.
Bobby Fuse.
I cast my one vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Deborah Gonzalez. Steve Henson. Calvin Smyrie. Van Johnson. Pedro Marin. Fanika Miller. Ben Myers. Rachel Pauley. Bob Trammell. Sachin Varghese. Nakima Williams.
I proudly cast my vote for my soror, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Kathy Woolard. I am pleased to announce that Kamala D. Harris has received 16 votes for Vice President of the United States. Do I have a motion that the presiding officer and the secretary be directed and authorized to prepare the certificate of vote of the 2020 electors from Georgia? I hear a motion from Calvin Smyrie and a second from Pedro Marin. Any objections? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. 6 original duplicates of the certificate of vote have been prepared. A copy of the certificate of vote will be distributed to each of you. Please review it when you receive it. Is that what's currently sitting on the desks? Okay. They will now pass out copies of the certificate of vote. And as these are being distributed, I will read it aloud. State of Georgia, Presidential Electoral College, Certificate of Vote. We, the undersigned, being the duly elected and qualified electors of President and Vice President of the United States of America from the state of Georgia, as set forth in the attached Certificate of Ascertainment, and hereinafter referred to in this certificate as the 2020 Georgia electors, do hereby certify the following. A, that the undersigned 2020 Georgia electors convened and organized at the state capitol in the city of Atlanta, county of Fulton, Georgia, at 12 noon on the 14th day of December 2020 to perform their duties as electors of President and Vice President as set forth in the laws of the United States of America and the state of Georgia. B, that Stacey Abrams presided and that Sachin Varghese served as secretary for the meeting. C, that the undersigned 2020 Georgia electors proceeded to vote by individual ballot and voted first for president and then for vice president by distinct ballots, resulting in the 2 distinct lists set forth below. D, that the undersigned 2020 Georgia electors cast each of their respective ballots for President of the United States of America as follows: the name of persons voted for, Joseph R. Biden of the state of Delaware, number of votes received, 16. That the undersigned 2020 electors cast each of their respective ballots for the Vice President of the United States of America as follows. Name of persons voted for, Kamala D. Harris of the state of California, number of votes, 16. Witness the hands and seals of the undersigned as the duly elected and qualified electors of the President and Vice President of the United States of America from the state of Georgia this 14th day of December 2020. Stacey Yvonne Abrams, Gloria S. Butler, Wendy Davis, Bobby L. Fuse Jr., Deborah Gonzalez, Steve Henson, Van R. Johnson, Pedro Pete Marine, Fanika Thomas Miller, Ben E. Myers Jr., Rachel Pauley, Calvin Smyrie, Bob Trammell Jr., Sachin Varghese, Nikema Williams, Kathy Woolard. Do I have a motion to approve the certificate of vote of the 2020 electors from Georgia? Is there a second? The motion was properly moved by Nikema Williams and seconded by Fanika Miller. Any objections? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Each elector will now execute each of the 6 original duplicates of the certificate of vote. So what will happen now is that each person will receive an opportunity to sign the 6 copies. to call this meeting back to order. Take note of your place so you can get the rest of your signatures. We've got a few more items of business to take care of. While you all are taking your seats, I'm going to deliver the vice presidential ballot, so by the time I'm back, everyone should be seated. Thank you so much. We are now moving to the motion to transmit. Do I have a motion to transmit the minutes of this meeting, the certificate of vote of the 2020 electors from Georgia, and the certificate of ascertainment to the appropriate officials as directed by law and the Archivist of the United States? So moved. I heard a motion from Ben Myers and a very enthusiastic second from Pedro Marin. Any objections? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. Do I have a motion that the secretary be directed and authorized to prepare the minutes of this meeting? I hear a motion from Van Johnson and a second from Rachel Pauley. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? I will now call upon the secretary to read the minutes.
Minutes of the meeting of Georgia electors, State of Georgia Capitol, Senate Chamber, December 14th, 2020, meeting at 12 noon. At noon on December 14th, 2020, Nikema Williams, chairwoman of the Democratic Party of Georgia, called the meeting of the Georgia electors to order and welcomed the electors. The electors were sworn in by Judge Kimberly Esmond Adams. The electors elected Elector Stacey Abrams as the presiding officer of the meeting, and she presided. Elector Sachin Varghese was elected as secretary. Elector Calvin Smyrie gave the invocation. Elector Bobby L. Fuse Jr. led the Pledge of Allegiance. A roll call was held. 16 of the 16 electors were present as follows: Stacey Yvonne Abrams, Gloria S. Butler, Wendy Davis, Bobby L. Fuse Jr., Deborah Gonzalez, Steve Henson, Van R. Johnson, Pedro Pete Marine, Fanika Thomas Miller, Benny Myers Jr., Rachel Pauley, Calvin Smyrie, Bob Trammell Jr., Sachin Varghese, Nikema Williams, Kathy Woolard. The votes for President of the United States were cast and tabulated. All 16 electors cast their ballots for Joseph R. Biden for President of the United States. The votes for Vice President of the United States were cast and tabulated. All 16 electors cast their ballots for Kamala D. Harris for Vice President of the United States. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously, directing and authorizing the presiding officer and secretary to prepare the certificate of vote of the 2020 Georgia electors. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously, approving the certificate of vote, and the various originals of the certificate of vote were signed by the electors. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously to transmit the required number of certificates of vote, previously prepared certificates of ascertainment, minutes of the meeting, and all other required documentation to appropriate government officials as directed by law and the Archivist of the United States. A motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously, directing and authorizing the secretary to prepare the minutes of the meeting. The secretary read the minutes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the 2020 meeting of the Georgia electors? We have a motion from Deborah Gonzalez and a second from Gloria Butler. Any objections? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We have now cast 16 Electoral College votes on behalf of the state of Georgia for Joseph R. Biden as President of the United States, and 16 Electoral College votes on behalf of the state of Georgia for Kamala D. Harris as Vice President of the United States. But as we do so in a time of difficulty for our nation. We are in the midst of a pandemic. We are facing both public health and economic challenges. We have the promise of a vaccine and the promise of a new administration. But while we wait for that to take place, we still have to grapple with racial injustice and a reckoning on who we intend to be as a nation. We have to wonder and worry about those who find themselves just hanging on, hoping that salvation is near. But we know that we don't elect saviors in this country. We elect servants who promise to be leaders, who promise to see all of us, serve all of us. We elect men and women of courage, but men and women who will make mistakes. We are here today to cast our lot in with Joseph R. Biden and Kamala D. Harris, but I ask us also to cast our prayers. We need leaders who are willing to go into the rough places and smooth out the edges, who are willing to go into the tight corners and carve out more space. We demand in this moment a leadership of moral character that is willing to admit moral fallibility. We need leaders who believe in us. This is not a moment of partisanship. This is a moment of patriotism, because we came together to do something that has been done time and again immemorial for more than 200 years. And because we are, there is a United States of America. I want to thank each of you for your service in this moment, your service that brought you to this space, and for all the people on behalf of whom you speak. But I also want to say thank you to those who are not in this space and do not see themselves as part of this moment. You too are Americans. You too deserve to be served. You too deserve to be supported. You too deserve to have spaces carved out and rough places smoothed. You too deserve a leader who sees us all. And it is on behalf of the incoming President of the United States, who has said that he may be a Democrat, but he intends to be the president of all of these United States, that I say thank you to Georgia for allowing us to speak on your behalf and to usher in the next administration. Thank you so much. Well, since you're all standing, I would like to ask if there is a motion to adjourn the 2020 meeting of the Georgia Electors. I'm going to recognize Calvin Smyrie for the motion, and the very enthusiastic waving of Gloria Butler for the second. Are there any objections? So moved. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.